We've been robbed. Look, it'd be remiss not to mention that one of the biggest things that hit the Warhammer community recently is, in fact, Space Marine 2. Everybody is talking about it, but nobody's talking about my boys. The real thing that hit the Warhammer community is the Dawn of War series, okay? I know, I'm still going on about it. You could say that Space Marine 2 hit the second. Dawn of War 1 and 2 were the most beloved games available for Warhammer 40k. Again, they are what got me into Warhammer. I actually have this heavy metal painted Blood Ravens Dreadnought from Dawn of War 2 Last Stand tournament for first place in 2009. I didn't win this, I bought it, but I have it. But whilst Dawn of War 1 and 2 are some of the most beloved Warhammer games available, we also have Dawn of War 3.
I'm alone.
Now, not a lot of people are a huge fan of the Terminator version of Gabriel Angelos. I thought that he could backflip was kind of cool, but a lot of people thought it was cringe. But what's super cringe was the Abe Simpson version of the model that was actually released by Forge World. It is bad. But what's been circulating the Blood Ravens communities, which I'm obviously a part of, the Facebook and the Reddit, I'm on them every day. There's not that many posts. But what has been circulating recently is some original concept art of Gabriel Angelos as a Centurion chapter master instead of a Terminator. Now, if he did backflips in this, I think people would literally destroy their computers. Honestly, I just want one of these miniatures. I want a miniature of a Centurion chapter master, and especially if that could be Gabriel Angelos. But I'm not a sculptor. I can't just go, well, here's a model and here's some putty and bam, I've got a beautiful full miniature rendition of an artwork that I just saw on the internet. But what I do have is a 3D printer. This one in particular. This is the Hellstorm's Reflex RS. Now, this isn't a review. This is a sponsored video by this company, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it very, very shortly. However, I do have a random Centurion on sprue laying around, and maybe, just maybe, instead of sculpting, I can use 3D printing to make up for the lack of sculpting skills I have. So first of all, we need to start building the Centurion. Now, ages ago, I watched a video by Eons of Battle, who kind of made like upscaled Centurions using the original kit, and I'm going to be following a lot of that to build the legs. And I would recommend you watching it. It kind of takes Centurions from these dumpy, stupid power armor guys to these stoic giant war machines. They look really sick. It's a great video. And I follow that along by building up the legs and then chopping the groin in half. And to honor Jay and his Black Templar, I'm going to use 3 Black Templar drop pod insignia because I don't have plastic card. I'm going to use this to extend the crotch. So he's always got 2 Templars in his pants. So I glued his Crusader nuts in, and then once it had dried, I chopped away the excess material I didn't need, and then used sprue goo to fill it in. This is just super fine plastic cement with loads of sprues chucked in so it's melted down to create this goop, which is really cool for gap filling and just building stuff that doesn't quite go together properly, like what we're going to be doing with a lot of this. And then I use a little bit of Perspex rod to extend the pipe, because obviously the legs are a lot further apart, so they don't quite reach the middle part now. So that's about where the traditional sculpting stops and the 3D printing starts. But before we start doing some 3D printing, I have a contractual obligation to make. This video is sponsored by Hellstorm, but are you looking to take your 3D printing to the next level? Meet the Ultracraft Reflex RS, a game-changing printer that combines precision, speed, and ease of use for professional quality results. The Reflex RS features an industrial-grade Z-axis that delivers stable layer thickness and virtually invisible layer lines. And with full field precision screen, light intensity is calibrated across the 60 zones to ensure accuracy. You can be sure to load up this 222.3mm by 122.5 by 230mm build volume to the max and have perfect prints all round. But it's not just about precision, it's fast too. With a high-speed body design and advanced motion algorithms, the Reflex RS prints at an average of 4.5 seconds per layer, and thanks to the dynamic motion algorithm, it's up to 33% faster than other printers, while still preventing misalignments and layer detachment. The Reflex RS also simplifies 3D printing like never before. Automatic leveling, one-click slicing, and intelligent support generation make setup and printing a breeze. You'll be be ready to go in just 15 minutes. This system really breaks down the barrier to entry to 3D printing, I've found, and if you do have a problem, there is live support where you can send your slice file and they'll tell you the problem with it. Add in the automatic resin refill and heating options and you can print worry-free. Speaking of resin, the new Pass 10 resin is perfect for fine details and miniatures, which you're going to be printing loads of with this printer, and it's at a super affordable price. Look, I've worked with Hellstorm for the past year and they are a fantastic company to work with, and whilst this video is sponsored, I've been very impressed with this machine at a very affordable price at just $799. But if you use my link in the description and use code Hellstorm at checkout, not only do you help me out, I'll also give you another $50 off for just $749. So if you're ready to take your projects to the next level, or maybe you're going to pick up your first printer and you don't want the hassle of 3D printing, you just want miniatures to go, use my link in the description and grab yourself the Ultracraft Reflex RS today. Again, thank you to Hellstorm for sponsoring today's video. And speaking of which, let's crack on with Gabriel. So whilst that was drying, I started to make the base, and recently I've been using Goonmaster Games basing kits. These are campaigns that are available on my mini factory. There's currently 2 volumes that I'm using in this video, but there's actually a 3rd volume coming out very soon. They've given me a preview link for a free sample if you want to try them out. They are really good. They're all pre-supported, and they're just little packets of random basing stuff. So I just printed a load off using the Reflex RS. Printed super great. Basically just chucked them all into the slicer and auto laid them out and then just printed them, and they printed nice. So by just having all of these available, I'm just using some super fine milliput or white milliput to basically make a big lump on the base and then just start pressing in random bits to make it into a base. And this orc piece isn't part of the kits, but I do have this random piece in my bits box. I wanted to use this on the base to be reminiscent of the original model. There's influence in this one. But yeah, download the free sample, it's really good, and check out Volume 3 that's launching this week. So now for the leg armor, we're going to split it the same way Jay did, and we're going to remove all the details, because we're actually going to rebuild all of this, because if we look at the original artwork, there's all this trim and like skulls on the thing. We don't have this on miniature, so we're going to have to rebuild them. And I went to my good friend Pete the Wargamer, one of the best sculptors I know, to ask him how to make perfect trim all the way around these tiny leg pieces. And they said just sculpt it with green stuff. And I was like, Pete, you son of a... I can't sculpt. So what I did, I used my big brain, and I used this 3D printer. And I went into Mesh Mixer to make a very thin strip that I was going to 3D print. Just a strip, just a rectangle. And what I did is I made multiple, threw them into the slicer, all these different sizes. I auto-oriented, auto-supported, and then printed them. And then I used these to find out which one was the best one. Before it's cured, it's still super malleable. So I used this to super glue bits on around the edge of the armor, and then clipped off the excess, waited for it to dry, then did the next bit. It sounds really tedious, but it actually wasn't. And I think it looks really, really good. And then once I glued it on, I gave it one final cure to make sure it was all locked into place. Again, I can't sculpt. I can't just go into software and make a thing I want. So I use these Bloodraven icons that I found on Cults 3D. Every file that I've used, by the way, is in the description. Some are paid, some are free. There's just like a bit of a mixture. I just looked for what I needed and printed it off. But I printed these Bloodraven icons, all different sizes, and then obviously we have a skull face on one side, which represents what he's already got on the artwork. So I just used the wings off this one. And then the other side, I didn't have a skull. So I just used a Bloodraven symbol and a Bloodraven's icon and glued that one on there as well. And then because the trim, obviously because I've done it a bit haphazardly and gone around and clipped loads of bits off, there's a few gaps. So I used the white milliput to basically fill in the gaps. And once it's dry, I just sanded it all smooth so it looks like one piece. For the leg braces, obviously there's some large like shield things. I don't have large shield things, but what I do have is Assault Intercessor tilt shields, again with the Bloodraven icon on. So I printed multiple. Essentially what I've been doing with this slicer is going, I don't know what size I need, so I'm just going to print loads of different sizes and then auto support them and print them, and then I'll look at them and I'll see if they need chopping down or bending or whatever, and just like using heat to like bend the resin around the places. But I stuck those two on, and I also clone mirrored them, so you got like the indents out the way. Yeah, I think that really worked really well rather than having them both the same way. I think that looked really weird. The joy of 3D printing is if you like something but it's not quite right, you can just edit it, you know, and then print multiple until you get the right one. Again, this is really handy for like prototyping, because like I can just like resize stuff, copy it, resize it, copy it, clone it, mirror it, and then I can just auto support them all at once. So I can print like 20 of them in just a few minutes, and then I can use them for the build. So I added the body, and obviously Gabriel Angelos doesn't have the bolt in the artwork. He's got like some bone relics in there. So I used the Blood Angels upgrade kit that came out a few weeks ago and used like bits of that just to represent that, just some skulls and stuff like that. I thought they'll be fine. It's bones, it'll do. Now, obviously, Gabriel Angelos doesn't have the huge oven mitts of the Centurions. So what I'm going to be using is actually the Bloody Magpies Chapter Master, which is available for free on Cults 3D. And what I thought I could do is take this miniature, print all the parts that I can't resculpt and redo, like the arms, the hammer, the head, maybe the cape as well, and use those parts on this kit to make it look closer to what we're trying to go for. Now, I was going to print it in multiple scales again, but what I actually realized is this free file is actually hollow, which is not great because obviously you hollow miniatures to make them cheaper to print or make them lighter, etc. because usually you want to like save some resin, or you don't want to print a huge brick so it's like going to like destroy your FEP. But these are small miniatures, and I recommend if you are printing like 32 millimeter miniatures at this size, I wouldn't hollow things just because you end up with cavities that you can't cure and can't clean very well. If you're printing something massive, yeah, go ahead, hollow it by all means. If you got like a big lump of something, hollow it. But if you're just printing like tabletop miniatures, like little dudes, don't hollow them, just print them solid. But these weren't solid, so I asked my friend Forgefather Loki, who's another sculptor on Instagram, if they could have a look and fix these for me, and they realized that they'd printed one off, and that was probably full of resin now. So if you have printed one of these, I'd definitely throw it away if you haven't checked the file before you printed it. They are hollow on Cults 3D. It's not great, it's not great. It's a ticking resin time bomb anyway, because if you have resin inside the miniature and you leave it for many years, eventually it'll eat away at the cured resin and you'll just get uncured resin everywhere. Once I'd had these files fixed, making sure they weren't hollow in the slicer, I reprinted them again at multiple scales because I wasn't sure, because obviously this Centurion is a lot bigger than a Terminator, and I wanted to print multiple so I have the scale available and the options available to decide which one looks right. And again, I'm not a sculptor. I could have removed the hands and then replaced the hands and made the shaft proper, but I can't do that. So what I did is I used a hobby saw to chop down the hammer head off, and then I chopped down the handle and I repositioned his hand, because obviously this is a two-handed hammer and I wanted it to be one-handed just like the artwork. And I can't sculpt, okay? This is how I would, like monkey brain, print the things and chop and stick them back together until it works, okay? I'm not a green stuffer, I'm not a blender guy, all right? Yeah. So now I've got one arm, I've got the other arm by chopping that down as well, and all I've done is just like remove the excess material where the shaft would be, so it looks like he's gripping his fist. It kind of looks like he's holding something, but he's like gripping his fist. And now I've got the hammer, and I've got the fist, I've got the bulk of the body ready, and I think he's coming together really well. But he does need a cloak, and obviously we have the cloak from the Bloody Magpie Chapter Master, which again I've printed at multiple scales and mirrored because I wasn't sure which way I wanted the wind to go. I don't think it matters too much, but basically I wanted to make sure the cape, whichever direction it was going, it wasn't going to hit the hammer shaft. The shaft of the hammer. So what I did was I found which one I wanted, and then I heated it up with a hairdryer again just to make it a little bit more malleable so I could kind of like bend it into place. And then I used a little bit of milliput just to fill in the gaps and just make it work. Finally, we've got the last few bits. We've got the shoulder pads. Now, the shoulder pads on the artwork, in my opinion, are very, very iconic, and the Centurion shoulder pads leave a lot to be desired. So whilst I said I was going to be using files available, for this one, just to make it super iconic, I did chat to my good friend Steve from Little Plastic People, who is an insane 3D modeler. You should see his knights. They're absolutely glorious, and they're mostly modeled by himself. There's only a couple of the original plastic pieces being used. But I said, look, dude, I've got this artwork. I need some cool shoulder pads. And he knocked these out in like 2 hours. It was crazy. And they are literally perfect. As you can see, they're a lot more ornate for like a character, for like a chapter master. And they've got the iconic big eagle on his shoulder. And then I said, can you send us a plain one as well so I can make the other one? So first of all, if you look at the artwork, he does have like double shoulders. Again, I could have asked Steve to do this, but I just didn't. So he has like double shoulder pads, kind of like the Cataphracti model we have now. So all I did was printed multiple of the shoulder pads for scales. I've said this a lot, I know. Look, 3D printing, if it doesn't fit and you don't know the size, just print loads of them. And then I used those to kind of like put underneath the shoulders to make it look like it was double layered, which I think looks quite cool. Again, makes him look a lot wider, a lot broader, and again, just a little bit more ornate. So I did this on both of them. Obviously, we got the iconic eagle on the right shoulder. The left shoulder, obviously from this artwork, it has like chains on it. And then what I presume is like a Blood Raven's icon or something like that. So I just printed these modular chains, and they're so easy to adjust. Allegedly, I've got no idea how to use Blender. So I just printed them out. Again, I just printed a whole bunch of them. These were the perfect scale. So I just like placed them where they needed to be with a bit of super glue. Once it dried, I just clipped off the end and clipped off the excess and called it a day. And then for the icon, I filed down with a sanding stick where the icon was going to be placed, so it's a little bit flatter. It rested against the shoulder pad a little bit more. And I found these big Blood Raven coin things as part of like a storm shield kit. I presume that these are for like banners and stuff to like make them look cool and put little round things on, kind of like 30k banners. But if you just print them a different size, that became the icon that went on the shoulder. It looks really ornate with like the wreath. I don't know what it's called now. The wreath around it and like the icon, and it looks really nice, I think. And then finally, we just needed to stick on the head, and we had ourselves Chapter Master Gabriel Angelos in Centurion armor. And there we have it. I'm not a sculptor. I can put things in the right place. I can use putty here and there, but I can 3D print, and I could 3D print brute force by printing loads of them to make the right scale. This is a really fun project and a little bit different. I appreciate he's not painted yet, but maybe in a future video we get him painted up and then we use him in like a narrative game where he's leading like a big unit of Centurion Devastators or something like that. But we were robbed, and I've finally fixed probably the worst Forge World model Games Workshop ever released into the Centurion Gabriel Angelos. I'm so chuffed with him. I think he looks, I'm gonna get him. Here he is. What an absolute beast. The base looks sick from Goonmaster Games. The overall model looks really cool, using all of those free files. And also, thank you to Forgefather Loki for fixing the files. And finally, thank you to Steve from Little Plastic People for sorting out these shoulder pads, because I think they just really finish him off. And finally, thank you very much to Hellstorm with the Hellstorm Reflex RS, the affordable version of one of the best printers I've reviewed on the market. And you can see that video just here, one of their previous editions. Again, I know this video is sponsored, but this is by far one of the best printers I've used. I will be doing a review shortly on the Hellstorm 3D channel. But if you want to grab this printer and want to support the channel, I do have a link in the description. That link is a tracking link, and basically, if you buy one, I get a kickback with no extra cost to you. And actually, until October the 4th, you're going to get $50 off. Okay, so it's actually cheaper if you use my link, and I still get a kickback. It's like a win-win. So thanks to Hey Gears, thank you to Forgefather Loki and Little Plastic People for helping with the files on this, and thank you to the members who are looking extra glorious today. And you can join this list of wonderful people by becoming a member today and pressing join. And if you haven't already, like the video because it was really cool. And if you made it to the end and you hated it, well, dislike it as well. I don't care. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you think in the comments, and hopefully I'll catch you next time.